Welcome to the first Strength Fit Over 50 class. We're all in different places physically, so I'm reaching out to each of you ahead of time to just get an idea of where you're at. Some of you I know, some of you I do not know personally or in a physical therapy way. So I do want you to reach out to me afterwards if you had any challenges with any of the exercises. We're going to start off with some basic movement patterns and we're going to build off of those over the next 8 weeks. And so I really do want to make sure the first set of exercises are going to be challenging for some of you if you've never worked out in a while. But for others, it might just be basically remembering the foundational principles of core stabilization. So we want strong cores so that our extremities can move freely and well on a very stable surface. So a lot of the exercises that we're going to do are going to go through different neural developmental patterns. So on your back, on your belly, on all fours, kneeling, half kneeling, and then into standing. And what our goal is to try to focus on keeping our core stable in most of the exercises as we move or reach or challenge our arms and legs to do some different things. Body position is important, and I'm going to constantly be giving cueing. I'm going to be doing the workout with you so that you should be able to watch me. It will also help me to cue you a little bit better. But if you do have any trouble afterwards, please reach out and we can make a phone call to discuss some of the exercises. I will always try to give modifications if you need the modifications. And I ask that if you are having any current level of discomfort, that you let me know ahead of time, but you also try the exercises. And when I start to progress others, I'm going to ask that you stay at the base exercise that we start at. If you need a break and the repetitions are too many, then just take the small break and go back to the exercise. Sometimes weight actually helps to do the movement better. Other times the weight will make it a little bit more challenging. In most of these cases, the weight should give you some feedback to stabilize your core. Sort of like if you went to pick up a feather on the floor, you really wouldn't brace for it because you wouldn't be expecting it to be heavy. But if you had a big heavy box or a big basket of laundry, you would approach that in a different way with better mechanics, form, and you would brace your core to do that. So we're going to make sure that we're doing that with these exercises. So first off, we're going to get started with a warm up. And if you find that you need a little bit more of a warm up before we do the classes, let's just say you can do some. If you have any cardiovascular equipment at home, you can do that just maybe 5 minutes before the workout if you find that this isn't enough for you. We are doing mostly strength training, so it shouldn't be something that you need a lot of warm up for, but because the exercises will warm us up as we go. So if you can hear, my feet are kind of hitting the floor hard, and we're going to learn how to be more grounded in our feet. When the feet hit the ground, everything above us changes. And we can learn through our feet and our hands to help activate some of our core stabilizers so that we can get, we're going to do butt kicks, so that we can get strong and turn on the right muscles without having to think of pulling this in and holding this tight. We're going to just talk about some real basic things. So I'm going to talk about gripping and really pushing through our hands and our feet with the exercises. So if you hear that a lot, it's because we need to be reminded to do it. I have been paying attention over the course of the last couple of weeks as I've been really kind of practicing and thinking about this, that how much I don't use my feet and how important they really are. Even sometimes just standing and pouring coffee, I'm kind of half on one foot. And when I really ground with my feet, it's really quite amazing how things feel. So just something to think about. And again, I like to work out barefoot because it really helps my feet in contact with the ground. If you are not used to working out barefoot and that tends to bother you, then please put some shoes on, but also make sure the shoes aren't super puffy or have a big lift in them. Some sneakers have a very big drop, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. All right. So we're going to start on our backs with a bridge. So you're going to take your two weights on either side of you. You're going to bend up your feet so they're close to your bottom as much as you can. A lot of people feel bridges in their hamstring, and it really should be the whole back side of the leg. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these weights, we're going to keep them gripped nice and tight, and we're going to bring them right down by our side. And we're going to push through our whole foot. So all of the toes and heel, outside of the foot, inside of the foot. And then we're going to lower back down. Most of you have done a bridge before, but a lot of us tend to push more through their heels because they were taught that that helps to turn on the hamstrings more. But we don't want just our hamstrings working. We want our whole entire backside of the leg working. And that's why it's important to press through the feet. It's that pressing that lifts you up. Now we're going to add the hands. As you press up, you're going to push out and lower. If it's hard for you to do both of these together, then push the weight up and keep the weight up and just lower up and down. But you're pushing really hard through your heels and your whole foot to push up, and your arms are really pushing towards the ceiling. And again, you're gripping your weights, and they should be just above your chest, not so much right above your shoulder. And we're going to do one more, pushing all the way through and lifting up. Now we're going to bring the weights back down towards us. We're going to do what's called a dead bug. A dead bug is really like this, with alternating arms and legs reaching, but we're not going to do it with a reach. We're going to keep our arms above our head. Our knees are going to be level to the floor, and we're just going to touch one leg down and back up. The other leg down and back up. I'm gripping again with my hands, and I'm lowering my legs. If this feels good to you, then I want you to do a little bit more of a reach out and back, as long as you don't feel it in your lower back. You should feel your stomach muscles working and your trunk, but not your lower back. If this feels hard, keep one leg on the floor and touch down and up. So you're not getting too much of it in your back at all. Now, if this seems like you can go into the next phase of it, so again, for those of you who have trouble, stay in the other phase. If you can add an arm press, so a lower and reach, and pay attention. This side I can do easy. This side I can feel a sense that my body wants to rotate a little bit more. So my elbows are straight, I'm punching up as I reach out with my leg. We'll eventually add more of the breathing pattern in with it too as we go. It's hard to get the concept and the exercise at the same time. Last one. Excellent. Now we're going to lower those right by our sides, and we're going to roll onto our side. We're going to get into side plank. For those of you who have any pain, you're going to do side plank on the door or the wall, and you're going to mimic the exact same thing. And when you need the break, you just step and take away the pressure on the wall. So my knees are lined up with my hips, are lined up with my shoulders, and we're going to lift up into side plank. For those that have done side plank before, you're going to add the weight to pull back. So this is the exercise. Up, row, down, lower. Up, row, down, lower. To make it harder, you can lift your leg out to the side as you do this. To make it easier, you can lift up and just pull your arm back without the weight and lower. You really want to make sure that you're pushing your leg and your elbow into the ground. 2 more. And again, if you need to take a break, please take your break. You know your body better than I do, and we're just doing these exercises. Everybody's in a different phase, so it's hard to say specifically how many reps each person's going to feel comfortable doing. So elbow is almost tucked a little under to the shoulder. My knees, again, are lined up with my hips, and I'm going to lift. I am really pushing my bottom leg into the floor, and I'm really pushing my elbow into the floor. If I'm doing it up against the wall, then I am pushing into the wall to get that C shape there. Up, row, down, lower. Again, leg out makes it a little bit harder. If you've ever done clams, this is a clam that's really working that side hip more like how it works when we walk and when we do things in our body in an upright position. 2 more, lift, row, lower, down. Last one, lift, row, lower, and down. So some of these exercises are a little bit harder because they're adding a couple of different components. If that gets too difficult, then just take your time and do the base of the exercise. And again, I'm going to go over different views of those, and I want you to pick the one that works best for your body. This is a progression, so as we continue to go, you may have to be progressing at a slower rate, but the goal is that we all progress by the end of this, we'll all be stronger. Now we're going to get in a hands and knees position. My knees are directly under my hips and my hands are directly under my shoulders. I'm pushing my hands into the ground so that my upper back comes towards the ceiling a little bit. I don't want to be resting into my arms or my shoulders. I'm pushing into the floor, and my toes are tucked under, and I'm pushing into the floor with my toes as if I could reach up. And this, if I were to lift, activates the whole core area. Now we're going to start with part of the pointing dog, or cross crawl is what it can also be called. And we're going to just reach one leg straight out and back in again. The opposite leg straight out and back in again. The goal is making sure the leg goes straight out and I don't rotate my hips up or down. My toe is pushing under on the opposite side, and you'll feel one hand will have a little bit more pressure in it than the other as you alternate side to side. So one more each side, and then we're going to sit back and just take a small break to stretch. And then we're going to add a progression to that exercise. So back into that position, tuck your toes, just as if you were to lift your body up. I'm pressing in. As I reach with my right leg, I'm going to drag my weight across. And I'm going to come back down. I reach with my left leg, I'm dragging across. So I'm dragging as I reach, I'm dragging as I reach, and I'm pushing the opposite hand into the ground. This does work the shoulders more than you realize, and that's the point of the exercises. Some of us may have shoulder pain, neck pain, and a lot of times it's because our core isn't stable enough to allow for our neck and arms to move the way that they need to do. One more, drag, and then to the opposite side. Excellent. Now we're going to get into kneeling position. Use a pad or a mat or a pillow to kneel on. You want your hips directly over your knees. And we're going to grab our weight and we're going to do a press out. So we're going to press the weight out and we're going to pull it back, squeezing our shoulder blades. Press the weight out, pull it back, squeezing our shoulder blades. So a lot of the exercises I'm going to do, we're going to work on something called eccentric control. We're controlling the movement so that we are building the strength in the muscles for their eccentric loading. Pull back, press out, pull back. One more. Again, if you need to take a break, please take the break that you need. Now we're going to go bring that weight back down. Now we're going to get into half kneeling. I'm going to face you. One knee up, one knee down, hips level, toes tucked under. I've got one weight in one hand, and I've got the other weight in the other hand. I'm gripping and I'm making sure that my hips are level. So sometimes when we kneel down, we end up lifting a hip. You want to make sure your hips are level and that your knee feels like it's relatively under your shoulder, under your hip, and this other knee is over the foot. I'm pressing down into my foot. My arms are by my side. I've got my weight. We're going to start with just a bicep curl. Again, if you've been doing exercise for a while, then you can do the bicep curl with the overhead press. But some of you, this is more strengthening than you've done in a while. I want you to really take it slow and work on that bicep curl. For those of you doing the overhead press, curl, rotate, press, slowly bring it down as you rotate back and lower down. Curl, rotate, press, slowly bring it down and back down. One more, curl, rotate, and come back down. Now we're going to swap sides. Toes tucked under, foot is nice and stable on the floor, hips are level, grabbing the weight, this arm is down, bicep curl. So we're bringing that up and slowly bringing it down. The shoulder blades should feel as if they're squeezed back a little bit, but that you'll find will help just by gripping both of the kettlebells. So to advance to the overhead press, bicep curl, Give a small rotation, overhead press, and slowly come down. Eccentric control is the slow controlled movement back into the position. The way that you would see it is if you were to go down the stairs, your quadricep last one would slowly lower. We're going to stand up from that position. If I'm climbing the stairs, my leg is slowly lowering down to the next step. One muscle shortens and one muscle lengthens with control. That's eccentric control. Now, the next exercise we're going to do is a bent over row. If this position is hard for anybody's back, then what I want you to do is do an upright row, and I'm going to let you do it with one weight. So one weight just pulls back. So it's similar to that press out. If you have bands, you're welcome to use bands, or if your arms are tired, just use your arms as you pull back. Rows really focus on squeezing shoulder blades together, not arching at the back to get your shoulder blades back, but pulling back with the shoulder blades. Okay, from this position to be bent over row, I'm just going to flex right at my hip, and now I'm in that bent over row. This again shouldn't hurt your back. I'm in that bent over row position. Just from here, flex at the hip, back is nice and neutral, and I'm going to do one row as the other one stays down. My head's in neutral. I'm not looking up. I'm not looking down. My head should feel like it's pretty straight in line with my body. And I'm doing one arm rows at a time. I am really actively using my feet in the ground and pulling those shoulder blades down and back. One more, each side. And I'm going to stand nice and upright. Now is a great time to take a small water break if you'd like. We're going to go back through those again. So we're going to start after your water break on your back for the bridge. If you're already feeling tired and you need a break, take the break. If you can, I'm going to have you get back down on your back. This time your feet are going to be right up to the back of your buttocks. And we're going to go into the more advanced version. If you are too tired, please work on just the bridge. And to make it a little bit easier, you can put the weights straight up or one weight at a time. If you take the weight and you try to pull it apart, that's going to activate your lat. Your lat on the left side helps your right glute muscle to work. Your lat on the left side helps your lat on the right side helps your left glute muscle to work. So you could pull the weight apart. If you had a dumbbell, it would be a little bit wider. And you would press through your feet. But for the more advanced version, for those of you who are ready, okay, we're going to press through our feet, and I'm going to raise one arm up and back down. The opposite arm up and back down. I'm pushing hard through my feet. I'm not feeling it in my hamstring alone. I'm feeling it in the whole back of my leg. And what this is doing is I'm using the weights to challenge my core in this upright position. When we alternate weights on either side, the trunk has to stabilize level to the ground, so it's working harder than if I were to just do both weights at the same time. Last one. Right side and left side. Good. Now you're going to take a break with your weight. I want you to try something a little bit different with your weights for the dead bug. You're going to grab onto your weight and hold it right above your chest. So not above your shoulder here, but above your chest. That's going to activate your core muscles a little bit more and take it out of your shoulder and your neck. If you need a small little, we used to use sponges, but little towel roll behind your head to keep your head from feeling too, your neck from feeling too tense, then go ahead to do that. We're going to bring our legs up into tabletop position or 90-90 position. Again, if this is in your lower back and bothers you to be in this position, put one foot down and really press that foot into the ground as you lower and raise. But for those of you who can, we're going to do both legs up. You're going to reach your right leg out while you turn the weight to the left. Reach your left leg out, turn the weight to the right. So you're rotating the weight as you reach out, activating different muscles in your core. Now, one more either side. You're only going as low as you can with your leg, that you do not feel it in your back, but that you feel it in your front. Excellent. Bring those legs back down and bring the weight back down. There's so many different variations to these exercises that I can make them easier or harder for anybody that needs it. This next one, we're going to leave the weight down for a minute. I'm sure you're happy about that. My hand is really pressing into the ground on the floor. I'm making sure my knees are behind me, and I'm going to lift up. I'm going to straighten my arm up, and I'm going to make sure that if I look down, my hips are lined up with my knees, are lined up with my arm being able to point straight towards the ceiling. And I'm going to lower back down. I'm going to lift up. I'm going to reach up, and I'm going to lower everything back down. I'm pressing through my elbow to lift me up in my bottom knee at the same time. And again, to make it harder, I'm going to raise that leg out straight and then back down. Lift up and reach. Last one. Lift up and reach. Good. Now we're going to swap sides. Knees are tucked under, elbows tucked under. I'm lift and reach. Everything's lined up. Again, if you've been doing core work and side plank is something easy for you, then you can add the leg into that extended position and go straight up into that side plank. I'm breaking these up because even myself, I had a physical therapist work with me after having some neck and back pain, and she was being able to see that I was struggling with some of these, and I know the exercises. So sometimes we just can't see it or feel it, and that's why a mirror can be really helpful. Last one. Excellent. Take a break. You can reach back just to stretch your back. And then you can get into this position to arch your back down. And then sink back into that prayer stretch or child's pose. And then come back onto all fours and let that back lower down. Now we're going to get back into that all fours position. For this one, we're going to do alternate arm and leg. So we're going to lift the left leg and the right arm and reach and then come back. My hand is pushing down into the ground, and so is my opposite foot, and I'm reaching. So many people do this one and they rotate, or they're very wobbly, or they sink back. It's super important to push and reach. I found with my own body, my shoulder was bothering me. And when I would push with my right shoulder onto the ground, I had a hard time stabilizing for this particular exercise, and my shoulder would drop. So that push and reach, push and reach, and bring it back down. Now we're going to go back into kneeling. This time we're going to take that weight, and I know this weight is getting heavy, isn't it? But it's good for us to do these exercises. We're going to do a tricep, a shoulder blade exercise. If you can, with the weight that you have, we're going to do a tricep kickback. So if this is difficult for you to do, then what I'd like you to do is just work on bringing the weights back and forward. So it's arms are straight and you're just reaching straight back. This is challenging your core. I'm sure you can feel it. Being in that upright position. Again, for those of you who can, you bring back, your elbows can be bent, and then you straighten. So more like a row and straighten. For those of you who need to just do the shoulder extension, they're both going to work that side body. Last one. Excellent. Now we're going to get into that half kneeling position. And this time we're going to do a chop and lift. So I'm going to take this weight and I'm going, again, my hips are level. I'm going to take it from my right hip up to my left shoulder and down. I am chopping and lifting. This is an anti-rotation exercise. So as I'm reaching and lifting, my body wants to rotate, but I am working to stabilize so I don't. Now we're going to swap sides. If your arms are tired, do it without the weight. Feet are firmly planted into the floor, and we're lifting and reaching. It's okay if you have one side that feels harder to kneel on than the other. Again, use a pad or a pillow so that it doesn't hurt. Push those feet into the floor. That's what gives you more stability to reach. Last one. Excellent. Now we're going to get into standing. This time we're going to do the bent over row with a staggered stance for those of you who can. So the weight is here. You're in a staggered stance. I'm still hinging at the hip. Again, if this is too difficult for you, I want you to do the upright row where you're just pulling back like this, or no weights at all. Staggered stance, row, and down. We're going to do both arms this time because we've changed the position, making it a little bit harder. I don't want it to be too difficult to do one arm and then the other. 2 more. Last one. Excellent. Put your weights down, and we're going to do a little bit of a cool down to stretch out all that we just worked. Again, some of you aren't going to really feel too sore, and others of you might find that you are. We're going to do bow and arrow. One of my favorite exercises. You're going to get onto your side. You're going to tuck your knees up towards your chest. You're going to breathe in as you reach forward and breathe out as you rotate all the way back. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Good. Now we're going to swap sides. So we're going to rotate to the other side. Breathe in. Breathe out. You may find that you have one side that you can rotate to more than the other, and that's okay. Hopefully by the end of this 8 weeks, you'll see some better balance between the two sides. Good. Now we're going to go on to our backs. I want you to bring your knees towards your chest. Drop one leg straight out to the ground. Keep that heel on the floor and raise the opposite one up towards the ceiling. Hold for 3, 2, and 1. Hug that knee towards your chest. Then swap legs. Put one down on the ground. Hug the opposite in towards your chest. Grab behind your knee. And 3 deep breaths to hold that up there. Excellent. Now we're going to grab that leg and bring it all the way over and let our opposite arm go towards the ground. You should feel that stretch in the side of your hip. This is different than the bow and arrow because the bow and arrow is getting more into the thoracic spine. This is getting more into that side hip. Straighten the opposite leg, bring the knee up, arm is on the ground, and pull that leg over. And again, one side can always be a little tighter than the other. Excellent. 3 breaths really help to let your body be nice, and your breathing helps your body to relax. So now we're going to do last stretch. We've done a couple of these before. You're going to get into child's pose. 3 breaths to stretch out that lower back. Each breath, you should try to feel as if you're getting more of a stretch here. And then we're going to go into trunk extension. So a prone press up. I should not feel this all in my lower back. It should be in my shoulders. Sink back. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. Reach it out. Big deep breath in. Sink back onto your heels. Exhale. Prone press up. Good. Excellent. I hope you enjoyed class. Please reach out and let me know if you have any questions or you need to have anything modified more than I already did today. See you next week.